Today I'm going to talk about my four favorite language channels of 2020 and one honorable mention. All right, so let's start off. So, Elysse Speaks, right? When I made my channel, I decided to get on language learning Twitter, which was, a great decision. I love it on there. And I think on the first day I came across Elise and we exchanged just some uh, tweets, she had said a word that for me was a word that I used to hear a lot back in Ohio. I think my aunts used to say it all the time, and I commented that to her, and we just started following each other, and that's how I became aware of her. Started watching her channel. What I really like about it is that it's kind of like a nice mixture of everything. She has these travel vlogs where she goes around. They're really fun to follow her. She has some interesting ideas for her videos, like the painting with the polyglots, and that's how I discovered her really awesome level of Spanish. I think it might have been like the first time that I was really impressed by someone's Spanish because on YouTube you can find a lot of people that kind of speak it, but for me, I live in Mexico, so I kind of have a different standard, and she really impressed me. And her videos are just so full of humor that I just find myself laughing all the way through them. She had a video where she was saying that she was going to take a break from YouTube for a while, and these videos typically are kind of like serious, but like she was so funny, she had me laughing all the way through it. I think she's an inspirational polyglot and a cool person, so that's nice. Um, you know, it seems like every language that she speaks it like amazing, and I find that kind of inspiring because there's some people who I think have gifts or whatever they may do, and I'm kind of sure that she's one of those polyglots that has a gift for languages, but I'm sure you can imagine that for me that's something to be inspired by, and so hats off to that girl. All right. Um, Next one is Matt versus Japan. I came across him because I found this video that he did with Steve Kaufman, and it was a very interesting thing, to say the least. And I started following a little bit about him, and then I learned about how some of his methods were. And the interesting thing about him is, I would say that out of all of the people I'm going to talk about today, I was the most inspired in my language learning through what I found out or what I heard about or learned about through him or through that whole world of kind of immersion learning. Because you know would do things that you could consider like immersion learning, but definitely when I like listening to audio when I would go for a walk or a run or around the house. I already did that before knowing about mats and this whole immersion thing, but um, it kind of like cemented it in my mind that I should be doing this. And I think the biggest thing that I did take from I guess first the whole MIA thing and then the AJET thing is also like this is to watch things without subtitles. And you know I have a very kind of comprehensible input type style, but it just makes a lot of sense to get used to such a normal speed. So although I don't dedicate like a huge chunk of my language learning to just like watching things raw, now I do have a period of time every day where I do that, and that's super cool. I've also kind of experimented with Enki, and that came out of the whole MIA or AJAT thing, and I kind of fell off the train with that. I got to get back on it, but yeah, Matt's channel is really cool. It's like really theoretical, and he kind of has his own space for that, and I really like that. Like I love language learning theory, and you know he recently had a video with Oriental Pearl where they did some kind of debates on his way and her way. And I'm a guy that really loves debates and whatever field it is. I think it's just super interesting, and that was cool to watch. I thought it was a risky thing because she could have made him look a certain way, but I think both handled themselves quite well. So hats off to Matt. Now I'm going to talk about Days of French and Swedish. So I found him towards the earlier part of last year, and I'm like such a language learning fan that you know I came across so many different people. Like I became a pretty big fan of that channel, but then like just in my journey of just checking out different channels, like I would come across people that I wasn't aware of that then I would become aware of through Twitter, like Ophelia and the Polyglot Grind, who I did a really nice interview with about a month ago. But Days of French and Swedish was and is a channel that I watch consistently. When his videos come out, I watch them. And of course, the cool thing about him is just his videos are on another level, like a complete other level. I'm the kind of guy that's like always been a fan of Steve Kaufman's videos, and all he does is just have an interesting subject and talk. So I kind of have that same kind of idea for my own videos, because I'm not even that tech savvy in the first place. But his videos are just a pleasure to watch, and he did some interesting things as well. Like one of the videos that I thought was really cool that he did was how Ikenna and the other Matt guy, the other guy who is like kind of self-help or self-improvement, but he also does a lot to do with, he has a lot of language videos and things like that. Lamont from Days of French and Swedish had this video where basically he just called them out, and I think that was pretty epic. Like I said about Matt versus Japan, I like this kind of I don't know, debate or rivalry or just making you think about things, right? And another one of my favorite things about Lamont's channel was he had this video about, I think it was learning 15 minutes a day and why it's a bad idea, and he proposes this really cool way of thinking about things that it's like gravity, like when you're trying to learn a language, you need to get off the ground, but your native language or English is always pushing you back. So basically, like you need to be able to spend a sufficient amount of time with your language to get off the ground. And I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. And gravity can come when you just even when you're living in the country, like how I live in Mexico, and sometimes people bust out English, and now my Spanish is to the point where I humor them with English if they do it. But who can forget the Lamont video where he studied Swedish for 67 hours a week, was it? I mean, the thing was like a BBC production. It was just completely impressive. So hats off to Lamont. He had this video about what it's like to immerse, and he had this mini movie, and I'm not even sure I understood it completely or what it was about, but it was definitely interesting. So keep it going, Lamont. Oh, and another thing about him that I liked is that he had the maturity to drop French, right? And just to continue with Swedish, which I thought was a good idea, because I think that kind of we need one language where we get to a high level so we can just have that experience. We can kind of know what it's like, and also just for a personal experience of being able to use the language. So I'm glad to see that he chose to go full-time into Swedish, even though his name is Days of French and Swedish. All right, so if any of you know me, you probably know that I have been kind of a part of the whole, Sibo Speaks thing that he has going on there, right? I mean, I would say that his channel is the channel that I've most watched language learning related this year. And I found him right around the time that I found Lamont's channel, and I was kind of intrigued by Seabolt because he was kind of like dabbling, but really hardcore dabbling and jumping from one language to the other. And I was like, oh, he seems like a good guy. I don't know, but I kind of wish that he would just pick one language, and then I would periodically go back and check what he was up to. And he kept on doing the dabbling thing. Then he started like this interview series, which I thought was like really epic, and I started to follow basically every time that he put it out. And you know, it was really cool because I felt like it was kind of Joe Rogan style, you know, but just for language learning. And I'm such a language learning content fiend that I couldn't get enough of it to the point where it was kind of getting in the way of some of my own study, because it also was live, and there's a certain excitement of watching it live. But you know, he decided to stay, well, just go 100% at Japanese, which I thought was really awesome. And I thought that he really needed just to pick that one language for basically the same reasons that I said about Lamont. But you know, and he stuck with it really well. It's been really cool to watch because if Seabolt gets fluent in Japanese, basically you can see it from the beginning, right? And I think that's really awesome. And not only his progress, if he decides to show that, but also the evolution of his mindsets of language learning, because he kind of makes these update videos about where he is at mentally, language learning wise, like kind of what kind of wavelength he is. And it's kind of really cool to see his evolution, not just as a language learner, but as a language thinker. And I appeared on his podcast or interview series a couple times. We had the 40-hour, 7-day language challenge thing going on together. He is someone that I consider a real friend, and it's just been a pleasure to get to know him and get to interact with him, because like I always say, if you think he's a nice guy on his channel, he's that much nicer just one-on-one. I don't know how that is, but that's how it works out. All right. So Seabolt, nice. Keep it up. And an honorable mention goes to Lindy. As popular as Lindy is, I didn't get around to watching her until maybe some months ago, and I've been quite delighted with some of the videos that she's been making, and some of the ideas she has. She has a lot of healthy, positive mindsets that I think are really helpful for a language learner. And she's just so nice and such a positive figure for this community. And as big as she is, you can find her on Twitter interacting with everyone just as a normal person. And I really admire that, because of course, these big polyglots can turn it into a business, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Maybe they don't have the time to interact with the community like some other people, but Lindy does. And she just seems so sweet, so nice, and really so positive. So I'm looking forward to watching more of her content as time goes on. All right, my 4 favorite channels of 2020, plus an honorable mention. What were your favorite language channels of last year? Please tell me. For me, it was really cool because all the previous years I watched almost all of the big language polyglots or language learners channels and all that. And of course, to an extent, I did it this year, but I was much more interested in kind of like the new wave of this community, which fortunately enough, I feel a part of. And this year had its challenges for me, specifically towards the second half. The first half of the year I was making really great progress with Russian. I was getting a good amount of time in, nice amount of time in. And the next part, I had some problems with my habits that I kind of fell out of them, and then some personal things. But even in those last, several 3-4 months or whatever, however long, I was still keeping the Russian going. But of course, it wasn't like on the same kind of just kind of smoothness as what I had it in the first part of the year. And you know, I'm very happy with the progress that I've made. I still have a lot to make, and this year is going to be just really, really, really getting it with Russian. And just I want to leave you with, guys, if you want to start a channel, because starting a channel last year was literally one of the best things that I did, and I feel that I've carved my own niche, right? And I have a place for me to share my ideas, my thoughts, my videos, my interviews, and it's really nice. I mean, who knows where it can take you? You meet so many nice people. It's a fun hobby. I mean, I did 2 videos with Wouter the Polyglot. I mean, like a year ago, I was just watching his videos thinking, wow, this guy's awesome. His videos are so cool. And now I'm doing videos with him. So you never know where things can take you. So if you have any kind of desire to create an Instagram account, a Twitter account, be a part of that community, by the way. YouTube, do it, because it's really been a nice and positive thing in my life. All right, guys, so that's the video for today. I hope you liked it. Go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment and like. Let's talk a little bit about language channels. I wish you all a great new year, and let's have this be the best year for language learning of our lives. We'll see you soon.